Have you ever noticed a growing distance between you and your grandchildren? The calls seem shorter, visits less frequent, and the warmth you once shared feels like it's fading away. You may wonder why your genuine efforts to connect are sometimes met with silence or tension. The truth is, the problem often isn't your love. It's hidden in the very words you use without realizing their impact. In this video, we'll uncover the 5 toxic phrases elderly should never say to grandchildren. These phrases, though subtle, can quietly damage relationships, and number 3 could be silently pulling your family apart. More importantly, I'll show you how to replace them with words that build trust, love, and closeness again. Stay with me until the end to discover the one simple strategy that helped a grandmother turn painful distance into joyful connection, and how you can do the same before it's too late. If you find value in this video, please like it, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an important lesson. Now, let's step into the life of Margaret, a 74-year-old grandmother from Atlanta. Her story is both a warning and an inspiration for anyone seeking to heal strained family ties. Margaret had been a devoted mother, pouring her heart into raising her children, Emily and James. She cherished every moment, late-night feedings, soccer games, college applications, and the many sacrifices that defined her as a parent. But as her children became adults with families of their own, Margaret began to feel the distance grow. Phone calls grew shorter, visits slipped to just holidays, and Margaret's heart ached with fear that the bond she had worked so hard to build was slipping away. "I raised them, gave everything for them," she whispered through tears. "Why don't they want to be around me anymore?" Her pain was impossible to ignore. The answer didn't come until a turning point changed everything. At a family gathering, her daughter Emily suggested seeing a therapist together to address the unspoken tension. In that safe space, Margaret finally heard words that shook her to the core. With honesty and courage, Emily and James shared how certain phrases their mother often used, phrases she thought were harmless, felt like invisible thorns piercing their hearts. Though she never intended harm, her words carried guilt, judgment, and subtle criticism that made them hesitate to stay close. They loved her deeply, yet felt burdened by the weight of her language. The therapist helped Margaret see that her words, even when born of love, were pushing her children away. Determined to change, she began practicing a new way of speaking, replacing blame and obligation with openness, curiosity, and warmth. The shift was remarkable. Within months, James called every Sunday just to share stories about his life and children. Emily arranged a family barbecue, filling an afternoon with laughter and togetherness. For the first time in years, Margaret felt the warmth she thought she had lost return to her family. Her home, once quiet and lonely, soon echoed with laughter and love again. Margaret's story is far from unique. It is a powerful reminder that the words we choose as parents and grandparents can either build bridges or create walls within our families. If you've ever felt the sting of distance from your adult children, or worried that your family bonds are unraveling, remember this: you have the power to change the story. By avoiding 5 toxic phrases and embracing words that nurture love, understanding, and respect, you can strengthen relationships that last a lifetime. Toxic phrase number 1: after all I've done for you. As parents, it's natural to feel unappreciated when children seem too busy to call or visit. In those painful moments, it's tempting to remind them of your sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the second job to pay for college, the endless support during their struggles. But saying, "after all I've done for you," is like handing them an invoice for your love. It turns selfless devotion into a debt they can never repay, leaving them guilty, resentful, or inadequate instead of grateful. Family therapist Dr. Laura Hensley, with over 20 years of experience, explains that this phrase creates a transactional dynamic where love feels conditional. Rather than fostering closeness, it breeds resentment and emotional distance. The guilt it causes often pushes children further away as they feel unable to meet impossible expectations. Consider George, a 77-year-old retiree from Dallas. He adored his daughter Sarah, yet felt wounded when her visits grew rare after she began a demanding career. In moments of frustration, he would say, "After all I've done for you, paying for your education, supporting you, you can't even visit once a month?" Sarah, weighed down by guilt, began to dread their conversations. The more George repeated that phrase, the more she pulled away, until their exchanges shrank to short text messages. It wasn't until George sought help from a counselor that things began to change. He learned how to voice his need for connection without making Sarah feel guilty. Relieved of that emotional weight, she began visiting more often, genuinely eager to reconnect. So, what should you say instead? Replace this harmful phrase with an open invitation that respects your child's independence while showing your true feelings. You might say, "I miss you and would love to spend some time together. Could we plan a visit or a call soon? I'd love to hear what's happening in your life." This way, you express your longing for closeness without turning love into a debt. It reminds them that your care was a gift, not a contract, and it gives them the freedom to respond with love rather than guilt. When children feel safe to love you in their way, that's when true connection grows. If you're still watching and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 1 below so I know you're here with me. Thank you for your time. Toxic phrase number 2. Your spouse is turning you against me. Few words can damage family harmony more than blaming a child's partner for their distance. When you say, "Your spouse is turning you against me," you're not only criticizing their partner, you're also questioning your child's judgment, loyalty, and independence. Such an accusation forces them into an impossible choice between their parent and their spouse. And in most cases, their spouse is the center of their adult life. This conflict of loyalty usually leaves the parent even more isolated. Dr. Samuel Carter, a family dynamics expert and author of Rebuilding Family Bonds, warns that blaming a child's spouse creates divisions that can last for years. It pits a parent against the family their child has chosen, making the child feel torn and defensive. Worse, it can alienate the spouse, who may feel unwelcome or judged, further limiting opportunities for connection. Consider Helen, a 70-year-old widow from Chicago. She adored her son Michael, but after he married Rachel, his visits became less frequent. Convinced Rachel was at fault, Helen would say, "You never visit since you married her," or "She's keeping you from your family." Those words pushed Michael into defense. Feeling trapped between his wife and his mother, he stopped inviting Helen to family events, and their relationship grew tense. The rift stretched nearly 2 years, until Helen, with guidance from a mediator, apologized and promised to honor Michael and Rachel's marriage. Helen began reaching out to Rachel directly, inviting her for coffee and showing genuine interest in her life. Slowly, trust was rebuilt. With time, Michael and Rachel welcomed Helen back, and family gatherings once again filled with warmth and joy. So what should you say instead? Instead of blame, focus on inclusion and collaboration. Try, "I truly cherish our time together and want to support your family. How can we make visits or calls work best for everyone?" This shows respect for your child's marriage and acknowledges their spouse as part of the family. It also creates space for practical solutions, like planning visits that suit everyone's needs. By embracing your child's partner, you not only strengthen your bond with your child, but also nurture a healthier, more inclusive family dynamic. Their spouse isn't an obstacle. They are an extension of the family you love. Build bridges, not walls, and you'll keep your child close. Toxic phrase number 3. In my day, we did things differently. At first, it may sound like a harmless reflection on the past, but beneath it often lies a subtle, critical tone that can weaken your relationship with your adult children. Used in contexts like, "In my day, we didn't cuddle kids." Or, "In my day, we worked harder." Or, "In my day, we didn't rely on all this technology." The message it carries is clear. The choices your children make today, in parenting, careers, or lifestyle, are somehow less worthy or less valid. This nostalgic framing creates an unspoken hierarchy, suggesting that your experiences were superior while modern approaches are flawed. Over time, such comparisons can build an emotional wall, leaving children feeling judged, dismissed, or disconnected instead of supported and understood. Dr. Emmeline Gwynn, a gerontologist specializing in intergenerational dynamics, explains that while this phrase may sound casual, it often dismisses the realities of your children's lives. It places you in the role of a critic rather than a partner, which erodes trust and openness. Today's world comes with challenges very different from decades past: economic pressures, technological change, and evolving social norms. By holding the past as a benchmark, you risk invalidating what your children face now, making them feel unheard or misunderstood. Take Arthur, a 76-year-old retiree from Miami. He often told his son, a father of two, "In my day, we didn't need all these gadgets to raise kids." To Arthur, it was light-hearted nostalgia. But to his son, it felt like criticism of his parenting, especially his reliance on educational apps and online tools. The result was tension. Conversations grew shorter, and his son became hesitant to share details about family life. The turning point came when Arthur attended a community workshop on modern parenting. Inspired to change, he began asking open questions like, "What's it like using those apps for your kids' learning?" That small shift transformed their relationship. His son felt valued rather than judged, and their bond deepened as they began sharing stories about parenting across generations. To avoid the trap of this phrase, adopt a mindset of curiosity and humility. Instead of comparing the past to the present, try saying, "I'm fascinated by how you're raising your kids. Can you share what's new since my time?" This shows respect for your children's choices and invites them to speak openly without fear of criticism. It creates a true two-way dialogue where your wisdom can be offered as a gift instead of a lecture. For example, after hearing how your child balances work and family, you might respond with, "That reminds me of how we managed our time back then. It's amazing to see how you're facing similar challenges in such a different world." Such conversations build connection, showing that you value their reality while gently adding your own perspective. Your life experiences are indeed a treasure, but their power depends on how they're shared. By approaching discussions with openness and a willingness to learn, you create a space where your children feel respected and eager to connect. The goal isn't to erase nostalgia, but to use it as a bridge to understanding rather than a barrier. Toxic phrase number 4. You never call or visit. Words filled with absolutes like never or always act like emotional landmines in family relationships. When you say, "You never call me," or "You're always too busy for me," you risk erasing the efforts your adult children do make to stay connected. Even if those efforts feel small or irregular, such words can leave them feeling that nothing is ever enough. What might have been warm, meaningful interactions quickly turn into defensive exchanges. Instead of building closeness, these phrases often drive children away, making them feel accused rather than appreciated. Dr. Rachel Torres, a clinical psychologist who studies family communication, explains that absolute terms like never or always create defensiveness and avoidance. They send a message that their efforts are invisible, stirring guilt, frustration, and even withdrawal. The truth is, adult children juggle busy lives, careers, parenting, social obligations, and personal challenges that naturally limit the time they have for frequent calls or visits. When their genuine attempts are met with criticism, motivation fades, and the cycle of distance grows. Both sides are left feeling isolated and misunderstood. Take Evelyn, a 71-year-old widow from Seattle. Longing for her son's presence, she often told him, "You never visit anymore." To her, it was an expression of love and longing. But to her son, a busy professional with a young family, it felt like blame. He was already calling weekly and visiting every few months, yet her words left him feeling like a failure. Frustrated, her son began to dread their conversations, and his calls became less frequent. The tension continued until Evelyn's daughter-in-law encouraged her to try a different approach. Evelyn started expressing gratitude instead, saying things like, "I loved our chat last week. It brightened my day." Or, "It was so special seeing you last month." This simple shift had a powerful effect. Her son felt appreciated rather than criticized, and soon he began calling more often, eager to share his life. To break the cycle of blame, focus on positive reinforcement and empathy. Instead of saying, "You never call me," try, "I treasure our talks and would love to connect more. What's a good time for you?" This phrasing expresses your longing without casting blame and shows respect for your child's busy life. It also invites collaboration in finding ways to stay in touch. For example, if your child mentions a demanding work schedule, you might respond, "It sounds like you've got a lot going on. Maybe we could do a quick call on weekends?" That kind of understanding makes it easier for them to prioritize you. Another effective strategy is to celebrate every effort, no matter how small. If your child sends a text or shares a photo, respond warmly. "That picture of the kids made me smile. Thanks for sharing." Highlighting these gestures reinforces their value and encourages more of them. You might also adapt to their preferred style of communication, whether that's texting, video chats, or brief visits, so staying connected feels natural instead of burdensome. In the end, what your children want most is to know their efforts matter, and that their relationship with you brings joy, not guilt. By focusing on gratitude and collaboration, you create a space where your children feel motivated to reach out, knowing their efforts are noticed and valued. The result is a stronger, more reciprocal bond built on appreciation rather than obligation. If you're still here and finding these lessons meaningful, please comment number 2 below so I know you're watching with me. Thank you for your time. Toxic phrase number 5. "You'll regret it when I'm gone." This statement acts like an emotional sledgehammer, using mortality to manipulate loved ones, especially children. It's often said in moments of frustration, loneliness, or a desperate need for connection. Yet its impact is far from creating closeness. Instead, it plants fear, guilt, and resentment. Rather than drawing children nearer, it associates the parent or grandparent with emotional manipulation. Over time, this can strain bonds, and in some cases, push children away as they seek to protect themselves from the heavy psychological burden. Dr. Margaret Ellis, a family counselor with more than 25 years of experience, explains that using mortality as leverage doesn't strengthen relationships, it creates trauma. It places an unfair emotional weight on children, who may respond out of fear instead of love. This fear-based approach can trigger lasting consequences, including guilt, anxiety, and even avoidance of contact. Robert, a 79-year-old retiree from Denver, often told his daughter Sarah, "You'll wish you'd visited more when I'm gone." What he hoped would inspire more visits instead made Sarah dread their conversations. Each call became a reminder of her supposed shortcomings, and over time she began limiting contact to escape the emotional weight. Their relationship drifted, filled with tension instead of warmth. The turning point came when Robert, guided by a therapist, changed his approach. Rather than leaning on guilt, he began expressing gratitude and joy, saying, "I love making memories with you. Let's plan a day together soon." This simple shift transformed everything. Sarah felt welcomed into the relationship, not pressured, and their bond grew as they created positive, shared experiences. Robert's story highlights an essential truth. Words rooted in love and appreciation build far stronger connections than those steeped in fear or manipulation. A healthier alternative is to replace that toxic phrase with a genuine invitation. Our time together means the world to me. Let's make more moments to cherish. This wording emphasizes the joy of connection without guilt, framing time spent together as a mutual gift that nurtures warmth and shared purpose. By focusing on positive emotions, you create an atmosphere where your children feel valued and eager to connect, not burdened or pressured. The legacy of a parent or grandparent should be built on love, laughter, and meaningful memories, not a shadow of guilt that lingers after you are gone. Why are these phrases so harmful? Expressions like, "You'll regret it when I'm gone," may slip out easily in moments of loneliness or frustration, often without realizing their true impact. Yet the damage can be deep and long-lasting. Neuroscience shows that critical or manipulative words trigger the amygdala, the brain's center for processing threats, setting off a stress response much like facing real danger. When these phrases are repeated, the brain begins to associate the speaker with distress, leading to emotional avoidance. Adult children may grow reluctant to engage, reduce communication, or even withdraw entirely. The damage is amplified by the natural power dynamic between parent and child. Even as adults, children often feel a deep sense of duty toward their parents, making them especially vulnerable to guilt-based manipulation. Using mortality as leverage exploits this bond, turning love into fear of future regret. Instead of nurturing closeness, it risks leaving lasting scars, feelings of inadequacy, unresolved guilt, and strained relationships that could have been filled with warmth. We've now uncovered the 5 toxic phrases that may quietly push your adult children away, along with the heartfelt words you can use instead to rebuild those precious family bonds. Your love for your children is boundless, and with these tools, you can let that love shine through in every conversation. So, what lessons stood out to you today? Was it realizing that a familiar phrase carried hidden harm, or discovering a new way to express your feelings with warmth and care? Share one insight you're taking with you, and how you plan to put it into practice. Your story might inspire others to strengthen their own family ties. If you found this video meaningful, please leave a comment below, and remember to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on building lasting, loving connections in your golden years. I wish you good health, happiness, and peace. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Healthy Aging Blueprint.